to Soulful Sunday here at Ariel's Corner. This is Ariel Gatoga, and we are streaming live on YouTube. So happy to be here with you today. Moderating today are the lovely Jason and the lovely Honeypaw. Thank you so much, moderators, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Our stream here is going to last for about 45 minutes, and normally, no, what am I talking about? I am so sorry. I have the tiniest little bit of a cold, and I already have a hard time sometimes focusing in the morning, and so this is just going to be a fun stream for everybody to experience for me, because my mind is not focusing at all today. Let's start that again. We do not have a premiere today, and we are off on Mondays and Tuesdays, but we will be back on Wednesday with a live stream and a premiere following that. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. When you hit that notification bell, if you hit all notifications, then you'll always know when we do have an upload or a premiere or a live stream going on. Our website is located at arielscorner.com, arielscorner.com. Our podcast hub you can find at arielspodcasts.com. And our shop is at arielscornershop.com. We have a Discord server and a private Facebook group. If you'd like to be part of our community, we would love to have you at either or both of those places. And you can find the links to our Discord server and our private Facebook group, along with all of the rest of our social media, on the footer of each and every page of our main website, arielscorner.com. We have a chat thread going on here, so please chat amongst yourselves. And if you do have any questions for me, you can put them right in the chat thread, and I will do my best to get to the end of them. I have to get to work today, which is one of the reasons why we don't have a premiere. So provided I don't go too long, we should have plenty of time if anybody happens to have any questions. You don't have to ask questions about what I'm talking about. If you just, it's a great place if you do have questions to get them asked, because I don't typically answer DMs or emails. And the reason I do that is not because I'm being rude. It's just that if I start getting into the habit of having a bunch of private conversations and helping people with their magic and things like that, I end up doing that a lot. And then I become this tutor for a lot of people, and I never have any time to get the content finished. So I just nipped that in the bud years ago, and I don't answer emails or DMs, but you can get your questions answered here online on our streams, or go on, like I said before, go on over to the Discord server or our private Facebook group. Usually I'll answer the questions there when you tag me. Occasionally I miss the tag. So if I didn't answer your question, it's not because I was ignoring you, it's because I missed it. So just ask it again. All right. I think that just about does it. We can get started with our lecture for today. Let's begin with the meditation. If you're in a place where it is safe and appropriate for you to do so, please close your eyes and begin to take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering the body and the mind. And with every exhale, let go of the tension in your body, along with anything in your mind that you do not want. Inhaling peace and exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain, in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, and it lights us and the grove with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily and efficiently burns away everything that's not like itself, and it leaves us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and God. We also call upon our angels, our guides, and our teachers. We ask that they join with us as we walk upon the way, helping us to be happier, more peaceful, more magical, more loving people. Blessed be. Today's topic is the topic of intuition, A good practice when you are trying to explore a topic is to find the etymology or the origin of the word. And that often will enable you, or at least assist you, in finding the understanding that you desire. So, intuition comes from a Latin word. And that Latin word is, where is my Latin word? Intuere. The Latin word is intuere, and that's made up of two roots. It means at or on, and tuere means to look at or to watch over. And so intuition from that perspective is receiving inspiration from the source of that which looks over us or watches over us. And it comes from the same intuere. Tuere is the root word of tutor. And so if you look that up, we understand that tutor means, from tuere, means to watch over, to look at, or to take care of, and to teach. So we each have an inner teacher. That's what intuition is, an inner guide, an inner teacher, a guardian angel, a guardian spirit, a higher self. You can conceptualize it any way you like, but it is within you, and it is always available, and each of us has that. Nobody has more or less intuition than anybody else, just like nobody has more capacity to have oxygen than anybody else, or access to the sun than anybody else. So everybody has access to their inner guide. Many of us, however, or most of us, I should say, have been raised to disregard or be unaware that we have this. And that's why very few people on this earth walk what I call the magical path. It's hard to have a magical life when you are devoid of your instructor, your inner guide, your mentor, your tutor. And that tutor doesn't have any ability to go against our free will. It's not how it operates. Now, sometimes when we are at one with that tutor, when we have really fostered a powerful and positive relationship with that tutor, it can speak in a loud voice occasionally when we need to have our attention brought to a situation. But if we haven't fostered that relationship, if we haven't given it permission, and we haven't done our work, it's really just there waiting for us patiently. It doesn't really have much power over us. Or actually, I should say, it doesn't have any power over us. It only has power through us. And the power that it has to work through us is power that we grant it, that we say yes to. And that's like any other principle. The principles regarding physical fitness, for instance. Everybody can grow muscle, provided they have the ability to move their limbs. So everybody has that ability, but the muscles won't force you to grow them. They won't say, no, you must grow me. We look at it that way, and it seems kind of silly that the muscle could say, no, you must, I force you to grow me. I'm going to speak very loudly to you that you must grow me. But they won't. They'll just sit there patiently, and those principles will always be available to us. And once we start to operate within the realm of physical fitness, we will see that those muscles do grow, that ability has always been within us, that we just have been not looking at. We haven't been paying attention to, we've been disregarding. And so to the extent that we disregard any principle, it sits there in potential, waiting patiently for us to regard it. And this is no different. Now, the principle the principle that rules intuition is the divine principle of wisdom. And if you think about any of the principles of the divine, the qualities of the divine, none of them have an opposite. We have given many opposites to things here in this world and named them such: love and hate, good and bad, pleasure and pain, health and disease. But the spiritual principles don't have opposites. The only way that an opposite to a spiritual principle can manifest is when there is a shadowing of that principle. For instance, disease isn't its own principle, it's a shadowing of the principle of health. Poverty is not a principle, it's the shadowing of the divine principle of prosperity. Hatred is not a principle, it's a shadowing of the divine principle of love. And we are free to shadow. This is the world of shadows. In fact, you can't have 3 dimensions without shadows. It's impossible. It's impossible to have any form without shadows. In order for form to exist, you have to have that which is finite. But we have to understand that the finite is not a principle. It is a construct. It's a construct that is necessary for us to have form. So for as long as we want to live in a universe of form and 3 dimensions, we must have shadows. And that's why this world is so painful. That's why this world is such a place of distress, is because in order for us to experience things here in this world of form, we must have opposites. But it's important for us to understand that those opposites don't exist in reality, only in this illusion. And when we understand that, we can use that to our benefit. We can be the artists that start to shade things, that start to shadow things. We can start to learn how to heal things by disentangling ourselves from the shadows. And that's one of the ways in which understanding that the principle of wisdom acting through us is capable of helping us to decide in any situation how to do just that, how to respond to situations in a way that we can optimize our connection to the spiritual principles at hand and either deactivate or reform the ways in which those principles are being shadowed or shaded. So a lot of times when people hear of the idea of intuition, they think that means that any feeling or any thought that they have must be their inner teacher guiding them. And it's just not the case. In fact, most of what we're feeling and thinking have nothing to do with our inner guide because we have disregarded our inner guide. Very much in the same way that before we picked up a weight, we couldn't say that we were involved in the principle of fitness. Those muscles were close to atrophying before we started working out. And the same thing goes with our intuition. If we've never cultivated it and we've never used it, we can't expect it to be active in our lives. So we have to start small. We have to start where we are. And the way to do that is by learning how to take time in silence every day. Take time learning how to relax the body, quiet the mind, and have a moment of silence. When you can learn how to extend over time, because this doesn't happen quickly for most people, especially these days because of all of the input that we have, all of the stimuli that we have constantly bombarding us. Most of us don't have the experience of sitting in silence and relaxation for even a moment, let alone extended periods of time. And so this has to be done slowly over time. And as we do that, we start to become introduced to that inner guide, that inner teacher. And we understand the language that that inner teacher can use to help us. And everybody's different. Everybody's going to have their own unique experience with that. But to not have those times that you have in silence and relaxation, you can't expect to be able to follow your so-called intuition because you don't know what that is. The ego mind is all we understand because the ego mind is all about being afraid and flitting from thing to thing to thing and avoiding sitting still, avoiding being peaceful, avoiding listening to that inner still small voice within us. And if that's all we know, and we say, oh, that must be intuition, well, what we're calling intuition is just going to get us into more trouble. People think, oh, well, you hear it all the time. Go with your gut. But what if your gut isn't tuned to your inner guide? What if your gut is tuned to your ego? There's been a lot of times when my gut has been really afraid of something. And had I listened to my gut, I would have made a horrible mistake, because the ego was so bent on me not being, doing, or having that thing. And I had to do that. I had to walk through the fear and do it anyway. I had to walk through that fear and do it anyway. But if I had thought that was my gut telling me don't do it, and I was going to follow my gut, I wouldn't have gotten the success that I needed. In fact, it was my intuition that was telling me to walk through that fear. It was my intuition telling me that not to trust my gut in that moment. So you can't always trust your gut if your gut is being co-opted by your ego. What you can trust is that stillness within you, that still small voice within you, because the ego cannot exist in peace. The ego cannot communicate in peace. And that's why it's intuition. That's why that inner teacher is deep within you. And the way you find that place of peace and wisdom deep within you is by quieting the mind and quieting the body. And the longer you can stay in those moments when you can extend those moments of peace, you have more opportunity to hear that still small voice within you. In fact, there's been many times when I've been able to quiet my mind and move into that trance state and ask for help and literally start writing reams and reams of notes that is a direct communication from my inner guide as to what I need to do and how I need to get there and what I need to, who I need to talk to, etc. But that can only happen, that kind of automatic writing or inner guidance can only happen when we have the discipline to set up that inner structure, that infrastructure within us to allow for that communication to happen. Florence Scovel-Shinn said prayer is talking to God. Or no, what did she say? No, she said prayer is telephoning to God, and intuition is God telephoning back to us. But that you can't expect God to phone you if you don't make the first call. You have to make the call, and then God responds. That's how it works. And the way you make that call is by relaxing and quieting the mind. And some of us have a very difficult time quieting our mind and relaxing our body. And that's why tools can be helpful. And I love that tool that I call the Magic Minute, because it quiets the mind by giving the mind something else to do. The Magic Minute is very simple. You take 60 seconds, you set your timer on your iPhone or whatever. Try to have it be a nice, gentle alarm or use a meditation alarm. But set it for 60 seconds, and you close your eyes, and internally, silently inside in your mind, you repeat the word blessed on the inhales every time you inhale. So each time you inhale, you say the word blessed mentally and silently to yourself. And each time you exhale, you silently repeat the word be. So you're saying blessed be. So every time you inhale, you say blessed. Every time you exhale, you say be. And you're going to notice that your mind wants to wander. And you don't get mad at it for doing that, because it's just how it is. You just gently come back to that inner mantra. Now, you don't have to say blessed be. You don't have to say blessed be. You could say Reese's peanut butter cups. It doesn't matter what you say as long as you're coming back to the mantra each time. Now, I like blessed be because it has a benefit in my experience of returning me to the idea of the blessings of my life more than Reese's peanut butter cups would. Right. So when you have a technique, and this is not the technique that you have to use in order to awaken and foster your intuition, but it's a good one. Any technique that you can use that helps you to quiet your mind and your body and sit in that silence for a period of time is a good one. Now, if you're using that magic minute, the idea is not to just stick with a minute, is to, over time, extend it. You might try 90 seconds, and then the next day maybe try 2 minutes, etc., and just extend it over time. If you ever feel like it's a strain or uncomfortable, or you just don't want to do it, you can stop extending it. You can just stay where you are for a while. But remember that the ego doesn't want you listening to your inner guide. Why would that be? Because the ego's got its own bizarre survival instinct. But what the ego doesn't have is life force. The ego's not a real thing. It's just a habit. So if you've ever had a bad habit that you've had a hard time breaking, it's the same kind of thing. It's just, it can be formidable. You know, if you're a nail biter or whatever, if you have a habit that you try to break that you don't want to do anymore, maybe you're real messy and you want to break the habit of being messy and you want to be neat. It's easy to say I'm going to do that with sheer willpower, and oftentimes it doesn't last long because that's the nature of a habit, and the ego is full of those little habit patterns. And so the only way to handle that habit is by being gentle and loving with yourself and taking it one little step at a time. And so the habit that we are addressing with the exercise of being silent and relaxed is the habit of the mind to wander. And that's the ego's use of that habit to resist it being dissolved. It doesn't want to be dissolved. It's a parasite. It wants to stay sucking your life force from you, keeping you stuck, keeping you out of the success that you were born to have. You were born to succeed. You were born to win. You were born to have all the blessings of life. Even in this three-dimensional world that can be so painful, you were born to be a success here, to navigate through it in a successful manner. And that's why you were given that inner guidance. But you were also given the freedom to use your mind any way you want to. And we've all gotten into the habit here of using our minds in ways that are counterproductive to our happiness, that are what we would actually call, in this particular case, counterintuitive. The ego is by nature counterintuitive. It's the opposite of intuition. But the ego's not infallible. The ego's not powerful. The ego, as we've said many times now, is a habit, and we can break that habit. All of us can. And one of the ways that we break that habit and we start to excel is by giving our attention to that intuition and learning how to, by committing to, living our lives intuitively. And for a while, living your life intuitively means taking a moment or two or three that you gently expand over time every day, sitting in silence, sitting in relaxation, without necessarily any expectations about what you're going to get out of the situation, out of the session. Your session may end up, you may decide, oh, that was boring, or oh, that was peaceful, or I liked that, or I didn't like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because all of those judgments about you learning how to connect with your intuition are nothing more than surface thoughts that the ego might try to use against you. And that's fine. You just notice all of that. You just notice it. You don't have any judgment about it, because it takes a while before you become accustomed to what that still small voice even sounds like, what it feels like, how it operates, before you can actually use it, before you can actually trust it. But once you start having a rapport with it, it's a smart idea to trust it, to use it, because the more you do, the more success you have based on listening to your intuition. And then that is self-perpetuating. It has a snowball effect, that the more you listen to and follow your inner guidance, the more successful you are in whatever aspect of life is concerned, and that begets more success and more success. And that's how you live a magical life. And interestingly enough, living intuitively like that requires that you have to cast fewer spells, because you learn how to navigate your life in such a way that you are proactive about many things that spells are often used to counter. You don't need as many muddy spells because your intuition had got you proactively. You don't need as many protection spells because your intuition got you working proactively. You didn't get involved in situations that you need to be rescued from as much. It's a beautiful way of living one's life. And it can seem, especially once you get to the point where you're listening to the intuition, but you're still somewhat new about it, it's very easy to question whether you're being responsible. Especially when the intuition guides you to do something that doesn't make sense. There's been many times when I've been guided to do something that my mother wouldn't have told me to do, or the common wisdom would say, don't do that. So, but if I listen to the intuition and I go there anyway, I will look back and I'll say, I'm so glad that didn't happen. I'm so glad I took that action that I was guided to take, because normally I would have taken this action and I would have been in trouble. Occasionally, as you foster this relationship with your intuition, the intuition will come up as a fear, will come up as a loud voice, will come up as a, don't do that. But it's not that common that it comes up like that. Usually it's a very gentle guidance that's so subtle that you can miss it. And that's why we have to foster this relationship. It doesn't tend to speak in loud tones. It doesn't tend to be any sense, there's no sense of violence or grandeur or drama about the still small voice, about the intuitive self. So it can feel like, because we misunderstand and we misperceive things, it can feel like the ego is a lot more powerful than the still small voice, because all the ego does is have drama and loudness and scariness. That's what it trades in. But if you've ever been to a loud concert, I used to be at a lot of loud concerts when I would have to have, ear protection. So not only was the music loud, but I had earplugs in my ears. So it was just like, I didn't know what anybody was saying. But if somebody had to communicate with me, we would come right up close to each other. Let's just talk right in each other's ears, or we would write notes. And we would, despite the noise in the concert, be able to communicate to one another. And I have experienced my own intuitive voice as being just like that, because the ego is so loud and so raucous, and this world is so full of overstimulus, of extra stimulus, just so much stimulus that's so distracting and so emotionally engaging, that when I listen to that still small voice, it's very much like that rock concert experience where I have to go, what did you say? and then the intuition will say, I said don't go there, right? So you learn how to listen through the hubbub into that still small voice, and you know what it feels like, you know what it sounds like, because you've practiced. You've learned how to practice. Every single day, you get into that stillness, that silence, even if it's only for that 60 seconds or 90 seconds. If you can extend that for 5 minutes and you do it in the morning, I know for me, if I can have 5 minutes of silence in the morning, where all I am is listening to nothing but that still small voice within me, the rest of my entire day is guided. I don't have to recalibrate so much because I've set the tone for my day so that I'm guided and watched over by this inner guide, by this guardian. And anything I need, as long as I don't forget that I have that and go off the rails and decide to do things all by myself, if I get into that habit of saying, well, before I act, I'm going to ask, what should I do? Where should I go? And people hear that and they say, well, but then that sounds like you're abdicating your own free will or your own power to some external force. Well, that would be true if your inner guide was an external force, but it's not an external force. It's the truth of you. I mean, if it all got boiled down to it, your guardian angel, your spirit guide, whatever that is that you call that, is more you than the you that you think you are, is the truth about you. But it's so different than the you that you know that it has to appear as something separate from you in order for you to take heed of it. Because if you really believed that you were that wise, if you had to believe that you were really that wise, you wouldn't listen to yourself because you don't trust yourself yet. None of us do here. The only way we can learn how to trust ourselves is by listening to the truth about who we are. And that's through that inner guide. So you learn how to trust the guide, and then the guide teaches you how to trust yourself. But if you had to just learn how to trust yourself all by yourself, you'd be screwed. Because you're not trustworthy in this world. You've proven that to yourself. We all have. We all have. Each and every one of us has proven that we cannot be trusted. But that's because we believe we're our egos, and the ego can't be trusted. But the infinite knows none of that's true. The infinite knows that you are a holy child of the universe, that you have all wisdom, all power. Everything that you need has already been given to you, and you can navigate this world very successfully. And since the infinite knows that you're involved in this ego trap, it's made sure that you have this intuition. It's made sure that you have this inner guide, this Ariadne's thread that you can follow back out of that labyrinth to get home. And if you can start off with home every morning, and if you have it within you, maybe come back home every evening before you go to sleep, to where you're just sitting in silence, focusing your mind on nothing but that inner guidance, just for a few minutes every day, you have everything that you need. Then it's just a matter of practice through your day. Practice don't worry if you don't get it perfectly for a while, because you start doing this, and then normally you just go about your life. You just go about your life as normal, and you forget to ask first before you say something or before you do something. And then when you have a problem that's a result of something you've done, you say, oh, that's right. I could have asked. Next time I'm going to ask. You learn over time not to go off half-cocked anymore. You learn over time not to make decisions all by yourself, all by your ego self. You recognize that the ego is programmed to fail, and that your intuition is programmed to succeed. So it's easier and easier as you go about your practice and you go about your living to return to that intuition again and again and again. And it's just a process. And when you forget and you make a mistake, welcome to the club. You're not bad. You're not stupid. You're not unpowerful. You're not an infidel. You're just being a human being that's caught up in the illusion. And the fact that you even care about moving out of that and into intuition kind of puts you ahead of the game, because most people aren't even thinking along those lines. Most people aren't even doing anything along those lines. So even the fact that you care about this to begin with is something to encourage you. And then through that encouragement, you can encourage yourself to keep coming back to it again and again and again. And you'll notice that each time you do that, you succeed. And each time you don't do that, you often make the same mistakes that you used to make. And rather than feeling bad about yourself when you make a mistake like that, you learn. You say, oh, great. I'm glad I learned that. I don't want to do that again. Next time I'm going to listen to my intuition. But don't let people tell you that just following your gut all the time is the same thing as following your intuition. Because what that does is it negates your role in fostering your relationship with your inner guide. It negates the fact that a lot of our fear response that comes from our ego likes to masquerade as intuition. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Remind yourself that your intuition is subtle, on purpose, is quiet, on purpose. The ego can't be subtle. It doesn't know quiet. It can try, but it's really bad at it. So you can have the ego's number each and every day by listening to the stillness, by listening to the quiet. Because it's the type of scrutiny that the ego cannot stand up under. It cannot exist under that kind of scrutiny because the ego is nothing more than a lie, that you're separate from your good. So I encourage you, those of you that are interested in living the magical life of intuition and walking that path, to start small. Start with where you are and just take 60 seconds in the morning and find a quiet mind and a quiet body. And if you have a hard time quieting your mind and quieting your body, use a technique like the Magic Minute. And slowly extend that to at least 5 minutes a day. And you're not in any rush. But if you can sit for about 5 minutes in the morning with that still small voice, you've pretty much done everything you have to do in order to have your day be connected to that intuition so that you can move through the day constantly able to access inner guidance about every situation you encounter. And over time, you are going to foster such a powerful relationship with this inner force that you are going to be an unstoppable force of success, joy, happiness, and healing in the world, regardless of what everybody else is going through, regardless of what's going on in politics or on TV or in the environment or whatever. You're always going to know what to do. And you are going to live that magical path. And not only is that going to be good for you, but it's going to be good for a lot of people around you because everybody picks up on things telepathically. And when you start living that way, other people are going to find their own version of that in their own way. And this world really benefits from it. And that's how much power you have. So give it a try. If this sounds like an interesting idea to you, give it a try. And give it a good try. Just like with exercise, you have to do it for a while. Give it a few months. And you probably won't go back. You won't go back to living life without intuition. You're going to be one of those, you're going to be one of us who decides that walking the magical path of intuition is walking the path of wisdom. And it is the path that we always tread. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be. Okay. That wasn't so bad. I didn't do so poorly. I was expecting not being able to stay on topic. We don't have any questions. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed today, and I hope that you will come back on Wednesday for Witchy Wednesday, and we should have a premiere on Wednesday as well. So I'm looking forward to all that. I have been doing my best to put a blog post up every day. I don't get that. I haven't been able to get that 100% of the time, but I'm doing my best. It's just it's a project that I have. It's something that I'm trying to do just to see what it does. I've been told If you did a blog post every day for 90 days, your website would really take off. And I thought, well, I don't necessarily need my website to really take off, but it sounds like an interesting experiment, so I'm going for it. So I hope you enjoy those articles. I'm doing my best to make them interesting. And so check that out on my blog, arielscorner.com. arielscorner.com. Just click on the blog post, and I have some articles. And I should have another one going up today. All right, thanks again, and we will see everybody on Wednesday. Until next time, blessed be.